Tables. Tops are what tables are all about. The very reason the bases exist. Tops get the wear and get all the work out. They often break, warp, and split and are removed. Baseless tops and topless bases have been a way of getting together and away from each other for many centuries. There are new tops on old bases, new bases on old tops, marriages of old tops and old bases, and complex mix and matches. Look for the splice lines on table legs. One-piece legs are standard. Splices to extend table legs are never original. A common enhancement, however, is the exchanging of plain legs for more stylish ones, with the splice usually being made at the indent in the turning, where the joint is hard to see. Try holding the tabletop and forcing the leg to turn with your hand. If it's a fake with a dowel, sometimes the joint will open up and slightly reveal the evidence. Legs are styles that are made of two boards spliced together instead of being formed of a single square post are not original, but vertical splicing is original to some Spanish feet, but to a very select few. Queen Anne cabriole legs, wooden pins, screws, or glue blocks hold the tabletop to the frame. Compare the shadows under the top to those on the inside of the frame. To check pin or screw holes, you have to remove the top. Demand corresponding fastening holes in the top and frame. If the underside of the top has been completely finished or painted, condemn it. Or, on the positive side, shadows or holes may tell of a top that has shrank and how it was refastened, with no fakery involved. In sophisticated furniture, the expert expects the top of the table or of the case to be of the same wood as the base or case below. Replacers of tops, though they ideally aimed at using the same wood, frequently settled for substitutes in haste. Another piece with great fakers' appeal is the butterfly table. It was easily converted from a tavern table. When examining tables, always put them upside down on their tops to get the facts straight. If it had a drawer, check for the color changes in the drawer chamber and wear on the runners. Look for wear on the protruding parts of the feet and look at areas that are protected when the table is in its normal position and that frequently should show no wear. On gate or swinging lathe tables, the several feet wear differently. Feet on swing legs rub against the floor and wear much more than those that are stationary. Warping may too cause extra wear on one foot. Always check the underside of tables for replaced or packed out hinges. The color and texture of the underside of the leaves and top are solid clues to a common history. Check the leaves for wear caused by supports rubbing them. As they swing, feel the wear. Actually work the supports. Stands. The greatest problem are the dovetail joints of the legs. They're usually hidden by reinforcing metal triangle. The fact, or it's sometimes called a spider, the fact that triangles were used, often in original construction, points to the fragility of the base of the pillar. Even when the metal looks undisturbed, the pillar may have been cracked. There may have been some American tables or stands that are exceptions, but almost every example with a mahogany plate is British. Be aware of primitive stands, very popular in the early 20th century. They were made in large quantities and still are. Turn feet on some stands look like those on a spinning wheel. Defrauders dismembered so many spinning wheels to create stands from the old turnings that they create a fad for such fraudulency. Old candle stands stand 26 to 29 inches tall, just the right height for someone sitting at an antique easy chair. The tops of 18th and 19th century tables are most always larger than their bases. And though many tops overhang the skirt only a bit, they are at least no similar. In selling, antique dealers propagate old becomes rare. Think of how the furniture was used and demand that its several parts make sense. Try the impossible. Disregard even spline providences. An impressive provenance can grow without a critical inspection having been made. With regards to federal-style furniture, compare the inlay or carving to that of period pieces. Always check the consistency of this ornamentation by comparing the most advanced aspect of the design to other similar decorated details. In early 19th century designs, the drawer sides, back and bottom, are many times mahogany, not a cheap secondary wood. Feet are now doweled into the legs, and all of the screws are machine made and have gimlet points. While some of the screws in any period table may be replaced, a few or at least one of the old should remain. Luckily, the dull color and band-filled threads of old screws do not look under a magnifying lens, like a shiny machine-threaded ones from your local hardware store. Finishing. While investigating style and construction, be alert to how the furniture was finished. There are several ways of doing the job. In the wood, figure was part of the embellishment. The furniture required a clear finish. Few pieces were simply waxed. Most stylish furniture was varnished with one of many formulas to impart a relatively clear high gloss of durability. Before receiving the clear gloss coat, the wood was often stained to give it an appearance of a better wood or to make it more uniform in color. In refinishing, such furniture loses stain as well as gloss usually, regaining any gloss. Painted furniture was much more common than surviving examples suggest. Much original paint has been overpainted, which sometimes proves to be the salvation of the original. Much has been stripped, and that which has survived may be very delicate and barely visible. Painted furniture requires two investigations: authenticate the furniture and authenticate the finish. For the latter, you may become an expert on paint or painted furniture, or you may want to consult one. If you want an expert's opinion, get it directly from the expert. We are detectives and must familiarize ourselves with ultraviolet light for helping us find something suspicious. Newer added pigments or some varnishes fluoresce differently than older ones. The added work normally shows up black, so the new work shows up black. Don't consider buying an antique just because of an advertisement of a blurb about it. Detectives begin paint investigations in small hidden areas. They work slowly to uncover a painted past, scraping with a blade and sometimes following up with sandpaper or using solvents or even gentle hammer taps to break away a subsurface area of the paint. Suspect reused wood wherever a board has a face color that is missing on the edge. Use the sense of touch to detect differences in painted surfaces and replace parts. To augment the senses, an investigator needs an understanding of, not necessarily expertise in finishes. Touching and seeing the alligator craze finish on a chair, for example, reveals some areas are in worse shape than others. Sunlight causes alligatoring. Do not expect finish deterioration to be evenly distributed. If caused naturally, it isn't even. Some parts of a piece of furniture could have alligatoring and other parts could have not. No one should have trouble distinguishing between finish deterioration and refinishing. Exposure to light, water, or heat causes logical variations in texture, whereas surfaces finished at different times feel entirely different from the surface to another. Alligatoring is a crazing common with the 19th century. Important information can also come from smell. Smell and odor of fresh varnish reaches your nose, revealing that the top had just been refinished. For example, refinishing a top board can remove shadows left in an old finish of a once existing splashboard, with stain and varnish covering the tracks of the splashboard. The sideboard was being auctioned as if it never had more than a refinishing, let alone a new splashboard. In clear finishes, the fashion today is for muted surfaces that look somewhat worn, not a glass-like, piano-like finish. Chances are that any muted, somewhat worn surface you see is new, younger than a slick, high sheen that was probably applied a couple of days ago or a couple of generations ago. Two problems. Was the finish removed, although including the stain under the varnish, the chemical strip-it approach? Two, was the wood beneath the finish scraped or sanded mechanically stripped before the surface was refinished? The look of a new wood surface helps answer both questions. A hands-on approach helps detect mechanical stripping, knowing which woods and finishes were popular and when also helps. The best way to find evidence of the original finish on a case is to open the drawer and look around the front corner of the drawer side, or with the drawer removed to look just inside the front corner of the drawer. Some stain, finish, or paint has been usually made into the secondary surfaces. The best place to look on an unintended table is beneath the top or inside the skirt next to a leg, not a chair. Also, now on a chair turned over, original finish will hide beneath the skirt inside the leg or a spot covered by upholstery. On an attractively decorated rocker, the undersides of the wooden seat retains revealing smudges of paint and varnish. Furniture that you are sure is old may have a finish that is clearly not, and yet may show no evidence of an earlier finish. Always look for dirt on top of and incorporate it into most finishes. In hidden corners, in crevices, and in up and under hideaways, the gummy residues of years of waxing and polishing and just plain dust and dirt accumulate. Dirty buildup, a friend to the detective, is a great challenge to the defrauder. Black paint and stain may simulate dirt, but you will soon find experience will not be fooled. You will become adept in searching for genuine dirt and at recognizing it when you see it.